What's up, everybody? You're probably seeing this video for a couple reasons, and they all have to do with how you get started with Airbnb. You're probably wondering, do I need to own a property? What is Airbnb rental arbitrage? I've heard about it, but you want to start an Airbnb, and I'm here to answer all those questions for you in this very concise A to Z video on how to get started with your first property. My name is Almadi Amtoon. I'm a multiple six-figure Airbnb host, and I'm here to teach you what you need to do and how to get started. And then we can get right into a little bit more details as the video goes through. Step number one, research the right location. I would first recommend Airbnb in a city that is either 1 to 2 hours max from where you currently live. Can you do it elsewhere? Of course you can. And we can talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But if you're starting out the way I did, it's much more easy if you can jump into a city that's right near you. That way you can get to the property if you needed to, get a little bit more comfortable with the process and setting up your team before you have to do that remotely. However, you absolutely can do that. Just as a recommendation starting out, I'd stick local first. First, you want to look at the local regulations in the particular city that you're looking at and understand, is Airbnb legal? Are there any restrictions? What are the laws? Do you need a permit? So on and so forth before you go ahead and you pick that city and start researching properties. That's going to save you a tremendous amount of time. Is regulation good or bad? It depends. If there's no regulation, that could be a good thing and a bad thing. Regulation can also be a good thing if it is giving some level of a barrier to entry, but the market is still good. Because you don't want anyone to just be able to open any property up for an Airbnb rental. It might be a little saturated. My point is, do the homework, do the research, and understand, is this city or is this town or wherever it is that you are, or a closer vacation destination, maybe 1 to 2 hours out, is that a great opportunity for you to do Airbnb? And is it Airbnb friendly? If it is, you've got the green light. Now you can go into what is called airdna.co. AirDNA is how I evaluate, and in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, tools to identify opportunities in a market, how well properties are doing. And they give you information and data such as average occupancy rate, the number of properties that are being rented out in that area, the average nightly rate. So if you understand those key metrics, and what I tell my students is, we typically want to find locations that are at least 70% or more occupied, and that way you have the greatest chances of success in being booked out. From the average nightly rate perspective, I don't like to do anything below $150 per night, just because we need to keep our profit margins and income on the higher end. Anything above $150 a night plus a 70% occupancy rate, those are great, and those are green lights on my side. The next thing is, you're probably wondering, what is Airbnb arbitrage, and do I need to own a property to get into Airbnb? And the answer is no, you don't need to own a property. In my opinion, eventually you do want to work towards owning a property because there's many more wealth building benefits. There's tax advantages. It's pretty much how you can build equity. A lot of things come with property ownership. But again, there's pros and cons. If you're starting out, I would recommend, and you have low capital, I would recommend starting with Airbnb arbitrage. It's a great way to build cash flow and then eventually work your way into actually owning your own Airbnbs. So what is Airbnb arbitrage? Airbnb arbitrage is when you take a property, you rent it from the landlord, and with their permission, you can sublease it out and you list it on Airbnb. Part of your research is going to be finding those particular properties, doing a bunch of research, whether it's on Zillow, Realtor.com, all of these different sites, Redfin, that list properties for rent. And you're going to take those properties and plug in all that data and do the research in Airbnb to understand, can you make enough revenue to have a difference in what the landlord is charging you for rent and what you can generate through Airbnb. And whatever that difference is, right? Whatever you bring in on a monthly basis on Airbnb, minus your expenses and rent, equals the profit that you have. And it's a great way to get started. And all of that information, and you can kind of process once you get an understanding of what area you want to be in, and going deeper into the properties. Next, and if I'm going a little bit fast, I got a lot to say, and it is what it is, right? I hope you're getting value out of this already. And if you are, please like and subscribe. I'm new to YouTube, but I'm not new to Airbnb. So if you're getting value, I have much more free content coming out to help you get started in Airbnb and make money. Next is, once you've locked in that property, I take all that data and I plug it in once I find a property into my profitability calculator. It's a tool that I've made that I can plug in all my expenses and kind of give an evaluation on, is this property worth it to invest in? I'm happy to give that to you for free. Way to get to that is in the link in my description. You can go sign up for a free workshop. Again, totally free. We go a little bit, or not a little bit, much more in depth into the whole process that I'm describing here, how to use that calculator in detail. And again, it's totally free. Sign up in the link in the description below. And that is held every Sunday. Let's assume you've found your property, you've identified that you can kind of make that, let's say you're arbitraging. Let's stick to arbitrage in this video. I'll have other videos about purchasing properties for Airbnb and how that will work. But for the beginner, let's assume we're starting out and we don't have tens and tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase a property, but we do have some starting capital that you'd like to take and invest in rental arbitrage, which is way, way, way lower. The first thing, once you've locked that property in, you've got the landlord's permission, you're able to sublet it. And again, this is all done through the contract. And when you're signing your lease, you have a sublet agreement. That is all done properly. We go a little bit more into that in my free webinar that I mentioned. Once you lock that in, next it's about furnishing and designing your property. Now, when you're selecting a property, if I take a quick step back, you want to make sure that the amenities in that property, such as a pool, spa, do they have a sauna, do they have a golf area? Those are really in 2024 and beyond, 2025, what you need for your Airbnb to be successful. The more amenities, the more money you can generate because you're more competitive. Gone are the days where you can just take any property and throw it up, minimal furniture, very boring. You're not going to succeed on Airbnb, right? The level is a little bit higher, but that's perfect for us because our whole strategy and that I talk about is we don't want to be like these folks necessarily that you've probably run into them online. I have so many properties and hundreds of properties, some of them even say, but they're not making that much profit, right? You can do the same with a handful of luxury properties because you're able to charge 3, 4, 5x what they charge per night for your luxury property that has all the right amenities. That's the approach that I personally like to take. I stick with the more luxury properties so that I can more easily manage a smaller batch and have a higher ROI and profitability on the ones that I'm working on. Furnishing and design. I am by no means a designer. My girlfriend helps me with the design. And if you are owning a property, which, I guess we'll say for another day, either you can buy a turnkey property if you're able to get the right rate and negotiate it, or you can buy a property where you're going to add all these amenities. It needs a little bit of work, more of a fixer-upper, and then you install those amenities. There's a great ROI on those sorts of properties, which is also a good strategy. But again, sticking to arbitrage method, for all of us here that are new, and most of us would start that way, you want to get some great ideas by doing research on Airbnbs already on the market in your city. One thing I would do is look up those top Airbnbs, which you can also in AirDNA, see how much revenue they're generating. This is a metric that they give you in AirDNA by scraping the data on the platform, and figure out what type of amenities those properties that are really doing well have. And either try to rent and find those properties that already have the amenities, or make sure you're making a killer design and have a really nice design in the properties when you're furnishing them. Again, it doesn't take a whole lot to start up, but again, you want to make sure you're more competitive, more on that competitive side, and have one of the nicer properties so that you can get the most bang for your buck. Again, Pinterest is another great place to start out for getting design ideas and getting all sorts of ideas for the furniture, how you want things laid out. And that's where you're going to get a lot of the design concepts. Now, if you're already a designer and you got a good eye for design, not me, but then you have even more of an advantage over the others, and that'll help you actually do better when it comes to listing the property. By the way, it's a bonus if the property comes already furnished, especially if it's nice furniture. You can always find properties that do come furnished. The landlord might charge you a little bit more. You can still find these properties that are rented, including furniture, because the landlord kind of just wants to get it rented out and make it plug and play and easier for the tenant. Those are actually, you can find some good opportunities that way. However, if you've got a knack for design, and if you really want to stand out, I always recommend going all in on getting the right design, some really nice furniture. It doesn't have to be expensive furniture. It just has to look nice, right? Especially when we're starting out. You don't have to go to these super expensive places and get the best, most expensive furniture. Absolutely not. That's not ever, how anyone starts. That's not how I started. You have to have the nice eye for design, and you can get some great furniture just doing that. Next step, you've got your property, you've got your furniture, you've moved all your furniture in, you've set up and staged it, which is absolutely important. One of the next things you would do is hire a cleaner. Your cleaner is secretly also your property manager. Not many people will tell you that, but you can save quite a bit of money if you're able to have your property not only cleaned by your cleaners, but once you develop a good relationship with them, they can kind of keep an eye out on certain things and let you know when things are going wrong. If something's going on with furniture, they're not just in and out and cleaning and leaving, but there's a right way and there's a process to do this, which I talk about in my free workshop. There's a right way to do that where they can be kind of your property manager. And it's always really good to have a good relationship with your cleaners, because they'll help you keep an eye out on many things. Guests breaking things, broken furniture, things that need to be replaced, even getting restock items, toilet paper and towels, anything like that. If you've got a great relationship with them, it saves you money if they can help you out with those sorts of activities. Next, setting up your Airbnb account and your listing. Guys, it is super simple to set up an Airbnb listing, but you have to absolutely focus and cannot be stingy on, number one, your photography. Make sure you get a top-notch photographer. Do not try to save money on a photographer. If there's anywhere I would overspend to make sure I'm getting the right quality images, it's absolutely the photographer. That is your marketing. That is what's going to be on the Airbnb listing, and that's what's really going to matter as far as being able to market your property and standing out from all the competition. All right. Once you set up your listing, you get your photography done. You want to get daytime photos and twilight photos. Twilight photos are key for marketing your property and making it look really nice, getting the right lighting, and just giving it having that nice hero photo, as they call it, as your main image. That image is what's going to attract all of your customers. All of your customers first see that. That has to be a top-notch, top-quality photo. So again, if there's one thing you take away from setting up your listing, it's spend well and find the right photographer to get the top-notch, top-quality photographs for your listing. That will do most of the selling for you. As far as the rest of the details, when you're going through to set up your property and all of the details in the listing, what it's near, I would use ChatGPT, use AI. It's free at your disposal. You go in and then you can just set up a prompt in ChatGPT. You set up a prompt, say, please write a very detailed listing description for my Airbnb located in XYZ city, and list out all of the landmarks, the key attractions, and key restaurants. That's a great starting point. It'll give you a very robust listing description, and you can step-by-step follow Airbnb's listing process just to plug and play everything that they prompt you to insert into the listing. Once you've set up your Airbnb account and your listing, now you need to establish a pricing strategy. Now, pro tip, do not use the dynamic and suggested pricing for Airbnb. It is, in my opinion, garbage. A lot of my students have had challenges with that and are not maximizing their income because they are using the Airbnb dynamic pricing. What I would recommend, and there's multiple softwares to do this, there's Beyond Pricing, there's Price Labs. I would go ahead and select one of those. And what that does is it compares pricing to all of the properties in your area, in your market, and is able to dynamically, day to day, adjust pricing based on the parameters that you set, right? And it's very important to set those right parameters. There's very particular ways how I do that, and I teach my students to do that. We can go into a little bit more of that in another video, which I'm happy to share. The high level concept there is selecting a dynamic pricing software to handle all of your pricing needs and how to establish the right price for your property, because demand can change, right? Certain months you might be able to charge higher prices because there's maybe particular events or it's in season, while in others, the demand might be a little bit lower. You don't want to have the wrong pricing as compared to your competition and not show up on the Airbnb website because you're either way too highly priced or you're way too low priced and you're leaving a lot of money on the table. ways to counteract that is definitely having the right pricing strategy by picking a pricing software. The next thing is you want to manage your calendar and your booking. Eventually, you can absolutely do this by yourself, but when you scale and you have multiple properties, you might want to also hire a VA, a virtual assistant, that can help you manage bookings, manage communications with guests, but you absolutely don't need to do that to start. I didn't do that until I had more than one property, and you can absolutely do that all on your own. It doesn't take much time, maybe 15 minutes a day dealing with that sort of thing, especially when you're just starting out. That's the next thing you'd want to do, is managing the calendar and all of the bookings. There's softwares that help you do this. I use Hospitable. It allows me to track my listings across all the different platforms, Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, so on and so forth, and be able to manage all the communications from all of your guests, all from one centralized location. It's very beneficial, especially when you start scaling. Now, let's do a quick recap. You did research on which city you want to start in. You've identified whether you're doing arbitrage or purchasing a property. Let's focus on arbitrage for this model, because let's assume you're starting out. And you found the property that you want to rent. You negotiated the lease with the landlord. Another thing I can teach you, by the way, how to do in our webinar that we go into our workshop that you can sign up for in the link below, is actually how to get free rent, your first month as free rent. Once you identified the property that you're going to be renting out and subletting, you have furnished it, you've identified your cleaners, you've done your photography, you have listed your property, you've set up your pricing strategy. Now, what is next? Time to get your first booking. You've stuck with me to this point. This is the most exciting part. I remember when I got my very first booking on my very first property, it was like, wow, this actually works, right? This actually works. Once you've launched your listing live, you want to make sure that you're getting a booking in the first 24 to 48 hours, right? I have students that get bookings in the first few hours. It can be as quickly as a couple hours or the next day or the same day, right? That is how you know you have done it right. Once you've followed this process that I've explained to a T, you should be able to get your first booking just like that within the first 24 to 48 hours latest. One of the keys, guys, this is a business, right? This is a business. But I want to remind you, when you are doing Airbnb, you're not just in a business, you are in hospitality, right? And that's why one of the major keys that will separate you from the others is accumulating 5-star reviews. And the way you accumulate 5-star reviews is by giving exceptional service and having exceptional communication. You need to have that in order to build your 5-star reviews, make sure your guests are having a very pleasant experience at your property or properties. And that will allow you to have a high search ranking in the Airbnb algorithm. The more 5-star reviews, the better you are. You can never go wrong. And the way to ensure you get those 5-star reviews is by providing exceptional service. So make sure you're doing that. Reviews are absolutely key. Offering personalized touches, which you can set up in the house. Things like having a guidebook. Some of these basics we cover in our free online workshop that I mentioned. You can sign up for free in the link below in the description. That will occur on Sundays. Every Sunday there's a live webinar for you to join, and I go through everything for free. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for sticking around, and I hope you had immense value in this training. The purpose of this video was to teach you all of the steps without cutting corners, A to Z, on how to get started in Airbnb, what Airbnb rental arbitrage is, if you're able to own and purchase a property because you have enough capital. I'll be making dropping another video on how to do that. But for all of us that were starting out new and didn't know how to get started in Airbnb, didn't have the right resources and wanted it laid out straight to the point, I hope this was very beneficial to you. If you want more free content like this on how to start Airbnb and start making money, click the link in the description below and join the workshop, the free workshop that I have on how to get started in Airbnb. I'll see you there. Thanks.